be with the bench mostly, and I suspect it'll go to the 11th Circuit. I've practiced before the 11th Circuit many times in Atlanta, and it'll go to the Supreme Court. The great thing about it is they have the support of 19 states, means this is not a case they can just ignore or blow off. This is the real deal. And the stakes are so high that I think it will be expedited, but I think it's going all the way to the Supreme Court. We'll fight. We'll get the smartest guys we can to make sure we have the best arguments possible, bulletproof arguments. Who I'd love to get help from is Robert Bork. I love that guy.
Part of the grassroots movement throughout the nation, we were discussing that we are connected as a whole, with the grassroots throughout. We also want to know and be equipped and how we can be helpful in that fight. And so is there any strategy, we would be open for that as well when it comes down to it. So as far as the grassroots, communicate that accordingly. Another issue that's near and dear is...
Let me just say one thing about that. Yeah. Judges are always taught to be impartial, and they're supposed to be, but they're also human. So the fact that their offices may get flooded with phone calls and emails, while they will do everything they can humanly possible to not let that influence their decision, they're human. It's important that they know that what they're deciding is important to people.
Good. Thank you for that advice. Sometimes you think that they're hands off, so thanks for planting that seed in their mind. There's a number that we love in the grassroots movement, and this is the number 10 of the 10th Amendment. What is your take on the 10th Amendment? States, federal government, along those lines?
Well, that's the whole legal challenge, in my view, to Obamacare is on the 10th Amendment. Very clearly states those powers not enumerated to the federal government are reserved to the people in the states. And we've seen the commercial clause bastardized time and time and time again. But if we allow this one, if we allow the Commerce Clause to be used this time to force you to buy something, then the 10th Amendment is gone completely. This is the test case, and this will create the right line on the ability of the Commerce Clause to continue to be used to lead away and wilt away and willow away at the 10th Amendment. So we've got to fight for all we can to keep it in this, and this is the case. It really is.
The line in the sand.
It is.
There's also one of the issues that's come up financially, and we would like to see this in leadership. And we were asking about from other candidates that have been there in this past month. We had Rick Scott here, we had Bill McCollum here, also Attorney General Bill McCollum. With one of the things is we would like to see accountability and the spending, traveling, along those lines. We're working on a budget on there. Is there a way that can happen as far as leadership within the different roles up in like RQF?
Is it you or me, right? Can you help us out?
It's coming from in the building. I don't know where it is.
Part of it is as far as helping reduce the amount of expenditures that are taking place. I know it's hard within the state of Florida because you have a lot of travel, but it's like one of those issues.
It isn't that hard. I can tell you that in my office we could see what was happening. So we reduced our staff. We almost eliminated air travel completely. Actually told the governor, sell the planes. There'll be better times. But when you can see that everybody else in their homes is tightening their budget, then government has to. And the other thing that's really important is we've come very close to getting everything on the budget online. The more transparent the budget is so that you can just get online and see it, the more you can raise cane about it. I mean, there's still, frankly, so much embedded in the state budget that shouldn't be there, that we still have a lot. We've cut the budget $7 billion in the last 3 years. And I tell you, I haven't noticed one bit of difference in the state government. So that just tells you there's still more there we can cut. And they're going to have to. Next year, there's a $6 billion budget deficit next year. So there's plenty of work to be done next year.
When your opening comments, you answered a lot of questions, even as far as the EPA. So we appreciate hearing your stance on that, because we are aware of, even with the waterways, trying to tackle it from that angle. The last question that we have for you is, this is your opportunity to share with us. It's why you're the best qualified to run for Attorney General for the state of Florida.
Well, I'll get back to, if you look at my life experience, and I'm not some guy born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I've worked my whole life, and I've worked hard, and I think that's what you want for somebody that's going to be your lawyer. You want somebody that knows how to work hard, somebody that has had to work for what they have in life. As a lawyer, as I've said before, very few lawyers have the privilege to clerk for federal judges and work at some of the firms that I've worked at, two of the very best firms in Florida, and had great mentors and learned how to be, I'm AV rated for reading. When you get an AV rating, that's from the judges and the other lawyers. It's not, you can't buy it. It's your reputation. It's what you've done in the courtroom. And then to be a public servant as a member of the legislature, chairing the Judiciary Committee, fighting for private property rights. I filed bills to lower taxes. Every year I was in the legislature, passed legislation to impose higher penalties for repeat violent felons. A whole host of things. I passed the parental notice of abortion bill that I was telling you before. Debbie Watson and Schultz hates to. That's okay.
It's all right.
Well, she said, tell that story. I was passing a civil rights bill to give the Attorney General's office more authority to take action. We had some motels up in North Florida that were they still thought it was the 50s or something. They were making it unbelievable. They wouldn't let African American families use the swimming pool and a whole bunch of things that shouldn't happen in America today. And when I'm pushing that bill through, Debbie Wasserman Schultz insisted that I let her put on an amendment to force the state to pay for abortions, and I refused to do it. She never liked me since, but there's no way I would do that. The other thing I say is my experience serving you as your lieutenant governor. Before I showed up tonight, you probably didn't even know we had a lieutenant governor, but that's okay. But to be able to have the global view of Florida, to be able to understand the differences and the challenges in South Florida versus North Florida versus Southwest Florida, to oversee the Office of Drug Control, oversee the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, being heavily involved in economic development and all the things that impact Florida. That perspective and that experience, I think, gives me a tremendous opportunity to step in day one, and be your advocate. And that's what the Attorney General is. I'm really proud to be the law enforcement choice, to have 21 out of 28 Republican sheriffs, to have the FOP, the PDA. The law enforcement community understands that they will have a strong partner if I'm blessed to be the Attorney General. And beyond that, just thank you again for the opportunity to be here. God bless you all.
If one thing that came up, and I'm sorry because there's one more question that came up, and others have not known it in this past month. It is really interesting on this one particular question, but it's one that's like we understand within the grassroots movement. It's a UN resolution called Agenda 21. Are you familiar with that?
Agenda 21.
Agenda 21, thank you.
Or
It's sustainable development.
Yeah, this is part of this long-standing movement to basically make 90% of the country off limits to human beings. These environmentalists have this bizarre belief that we're an infestation on the planet, and we need to be whisked away into these tight, controlled areas, and that's the only place we can go, and the rest of the planet needs to be saved. Obviously, very extreme views, very dangerous views, and I think we need to. I would sure like to know. I think the state of Florida should be notified every time anybody from the United Nations comes into the border of Florida. There's some very dangerous things going on there. And when you see their Human Rights Commission and who's sitting on this, who's sitting on the board, they just added Cuba. Cuba has thousands of people in political prisons right now because they dare to fight for freedom of speech. We don't do anything about it. 90 miles from the shore of Florida. Of course, I know what it is. I oppose it, and I think that we got to push back hard.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming out. You guys give an applause. It's just really amazing. Thank you for your service to our state and Thank you. I know you got to.
I never tell my opponents names.
Well, we're gonna